Let's move into the questions from TTB family. If you guys don't know, if you're new to listening, every time that we record a podcast, I'll put it out on Twitter and I'll put it out on the YouTube community, YouTube posts, and I'll say, hey, what are some topics, players, questions that you want us to cover? So let's talk about those. We definitely have some good ones. First, this one from Malte. He says signing Deshaun Jackson. We got that one covered, Malte. So shout out to you. Let's see. Nick Soren said this is an interesting one. Run game. In 2019, we would build leads and then kill clock on long running drives to blow out teams. How can we bring back our second half run game? They caught on. Greg Roman's been running the exact same run system since he was in San Francisco. And he's been doing the same thing. And it's not like, oh, well, he has. It's like, no. They're the same plays. They're the same formations.
Different variations.
Yeah, different variations. But when teams know the exact situation that you're going to run it, I mean, people are still calling out Ravens plays. It's pretty obvious when the Ravens are going to run the ball and who they're going to run it to. Also, the running backs are not very good. They've been running it with Kenny Drake the most. Shout out to Kenny Drake. Great game last week, but he is not, the Gus Edwards, Mark Ingram combo that we had.
He's done what he did what Devontae Freeman did last year, coming alive around week 5, week 6.
Yeah. But in terms of that, it's like the Ravens' run game isn't working this year. Yes, they have good running stats, but that's because Lamar Jackson is like scrambling and he's making those plays, it seems like, on his own. But like overall, the run game, we're not gashing teams like we used to back then. No. Because we're just, I mean, when you're running the almost same run scheme, yeah, the passing concepts you can say have changed over the last couple of years as Lamar's developed as a passer. Not a lot has changed, but they've kind of changed. But in the run game, one, Nick Boyle's not out on the field still, even though he's healthy. He's not on the field. He got like less than 5 snaps, I want to say, last week. I think it was like 1 or 3 snaps. But like, then we're running the ball and it's like, oh, wow, the read option. And the read option can work, but that's when everything else is working. And teams, I think, have just decided they're going to stop the Ravens pass because the Ravens run isn't that good. They don't have the scheme anymore or the personnel. Maybe Gus Edwards was a huge part of it, because he can, ground and pound and he can wear them down. We'll find out when we get Gus back. But overall, I think teams are just catching on. And that's a concern that people brought up when Lamar Jackson first came into the league in 2018. It was like, well, teams are going to catch on. And it was like, okay, teams are going to catch on in 5 games. But they've been doing the same thing for 4 years. They're going to catch on to how this run game works after 4 years of film. And Greg Roman, and things aren't changing. Greg Roman's not changing. The offense isn't changing. Things are going to be caught up to. That was a historic offense that people really hadn't seen much of. Lamar Jackson, freak talent. They still have the talent, but it's the same system. It's like going to a baking contest and baking the exact same cake every year. Yeah, the first year you're going to win, but people are going to learn that recipe, and they're going to improve it, and you're going to start losing. Even though it's the same as what it was. It used to be great. Now it's not any good, right? Yeah. It's like movie. It's like CGI in movies, right? Right? Like video game graphics.
Yeah.
When Mario for the N64 came out, man, that thing looked amazing. Now you look at it and you're like, this thing looks terrible. This is horrible graphics. It's poorly run. But when it came out, it was so good.
Yeah.
That's the Ravens offense right now. That's the Ravens run game. That's Greg Roman. That's John Harbaugh. Oh, excuse me.
A whole lot of nostalgia going on when it comes to the Ravens offense. I definitely will say that, as far as the run game, the offensive line is looking better. The only wrinkle when it comes to the run game is the pulling. I'm seeing Morgan Moses pull all the way over to the left side. I mean, that's the only beauty in it. But I feel like, like you said, I feel like, the missing out on J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards is playing a lot. when you got these subpar running backs, Kenyon Drake, um, Mike Davis, Justice Hill before he went down, when he finally started figuring out to run north and south, it just didn't look the same. But once you got your who's the guys? Joe Mixon, the Najee Harrises, the Nick Chubb, the Kareem Hunts, the JKs, the Gus Edwards that can make something happen out of nothing. Because right now there's off the run game, like you say, it's at a stalemate almost. It's down there, it's not moving. And then now you're trying to pull back from Lamar Jackson of being that running first option, which you need to do because he is a quarterback. Because I mean, every time he runs out, to elude the defense, in a passing play, and he gets thrown down all different types of ways, he still don't get the calls as a Tom Brady or a Matthew Stafford or even I would say Pat Mahomes, but Josh Allen gets some calls here and there. But even Josh Allen, he throws his shoulder at people when he runs the ball. So it has to be a change. It has to be a change. I mean, Ravens football has been about the ground and pound game, strong defense, and right now for the past couple of years, we haven't really been living up to the mantra or the name that we've left in the NFL. And I feel like previous Ravens players like the Ray Lewises, maybe even the Bart Scotts, the Patrick Onsawads, Peter Boulwares, who else? Jamal Lewis, Willis McGahee. Those guys are probably like, well, dang, when I was a Raven, we did X, Y, and Z. And, they're just not making it happen. They're just not making it happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a situation that's unfortunate because the Ravens play like they have that 2019 offense. They call plays like they have that 2019 offense, but they don't. I think that's one of the things Greg Roman needs to analyze is, hey, the way that these plays used to work, I think that also comes down to the 3rd and 1, the 4th and 1s, the goal line attempts, the 2-point conversions. I think it comes down to the fact that they're still looking at 2019 and they're doing it and they're like, this should work. And they keep plugging that little triangle shape into the square hole. And they're like, it's not working, but it should work, right? Because it did work, right? Sometimes your password is changed and you got to figure out what that new password is. You got to unlock the first down.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 years ago, running the Lamar Jackson rollout to the right worked because it was new. Teams weren't used to it. So Lamar would roll out. He'd have 3 tight ends on the line, and it would go Nick Boyle underneath, Mark Andrews, deep post or deep corner route, and Hayden Hurst, you're going to run, a nice little stop, and Lamar's going to hit one of you. And that worked because people hadn't seen it. It was new. It was fresh. It was unique. But now they're kind of running it again, and it's like, teams have been watching this for years, right? We see the same thing with other plays. The Kansas City Chiefs really kind of started the underneath hand shuffle pass to the tight end or the running back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bengals tried to run that against the Ravens. They stopped it. Why? Because people are used to it. They see it now. Can it still work? Yes. But in those, it works on 1st and 10, 2nd and 4. When you get to the goal line, it's like, wait a minute, it doesn't work as much anymore. You got to get more creativity. That's why the Chiefs have seemed like they've kind of moved on and they start trying new things. We saw the Cincinnati Bengals. They went out there. They tried to run the Philly special. Wait a minute. Why did that not work? Because teams see it more and more. And the more a play is run, the more it gets shut down. Why does the Wildcat formation not work as well anymore? Because the Miami Dolphins used it too much and everybody got used to it. They figured it out. You got to start finding new plays. You got to start creativity. That's what we've been calling for the vault. Open up the vault. Greg Roman, you got it. It's like he went to high school, not to coach. He did go to high school to coach, but he went to high school and he learned a bunch of different things, right? And for the rest of his life, he said, I am only going to use the information I was taught in high school. I am not going to adapt to maybe he gets a job and he's working in the electrical industry or something
Mhm.
like that. And he's like, well, I actually learned in high school about, the electrons, and they said this. And I'm going to go by that information, not the one that the experts in the field are telling him, his coworkers.
Yeah.
He's going out there. He's like, no. This is how it's done. And he's still doing that. After 10, 15 years, he's like, no. This is how we do it. This is how we pick up those 3rd-and-1s. This is how we run an offense. It's like, okay. Have you seen the things that people used to like? Have you watched football 20 years ago? Looks very different than today. Running backs were getting the ball like 400 times a year. Now we're lucky if one running back maybe gets 300 or upper 200s. Greg Roman's got to change, and that's why the Ravens' run game isn't like it was in 2019. It's because it hasn't changed, and so it's not going to be as effective. If you call the same play over and over and over again, the first play it may work. First play may be an 80-yard touchdown. Second play, maybe get another 80-yard touchdown. The third play, though, okay, they stopped you, but you run it for a 4th play, you get another touchdown. 5th play, you out there and it's like, oh wow, okay, 15 yards. It's still good, but 15 yards. Then you stop getting those big touchdowns and you keep getting 15, and then they stop you. And all of a sudden you're getting 5. And then they stop you. And it's like, wait a minute. We're only getting 5 yards of play. I mean, this should be, an 80-yard touchdown. Just like in Madden. If you guys play Madden, you may have a cover 2 beater, and you're used to it, getting you a touchdown every time.
Mm-hmm.
But then that guy makes that adjustment. And you're like, okay, it's not a touchdown. Now it's 10 yards. But late in the game, you call that play expecting a touchdown, and you're like, wait a minute. Why isn't it giving me a touchdown? They learned. They adjusted. They usered this safety, whatever it was.
Yeah, man. I mean, like the Marlins said, tweeted about the insanity.